Everybody, it's Andrew Jenkins here. And yeah, we're never quite sure whether we go live or not, but we think we are live now. We're just waiting for the feeds to come up. So so welcome folks to another Leaders Live. And this is the countdown to allow the various feeds to catch up with us and to settle down. We're just waiting for the feed to come up in LinkedIn for us. So yeah, let's just bring that up. Where are we? LinkedIn. Just bear with me. There we go. Fantastic. So we're just waiting for the feed. Oh, there it is. Brilliant. Fantastic. So we're hanging out with the incredible John Attridge, CEO of BBX UK, best-selling author and renowned keynote speaker. Oh, so there we go. And let me just give him an okay. And yeah, we're extremely excited to have John on again. We're talking about scaling up businesses, how to grow your sales to scale up your business. So we're focusing on sales this morning, folks. And please let us know if our comments are coming through. Okay, yep. Good morning, everybody. Sarah's on. Let's just see if there's anybody else on. And give us a wave, John. Ah, brilliant. There he is. And Sarah, give us a wave, Mrs. Moderator. There we go. Hello, hello, hello. 106 show, folks. And so with Sarah, John, me, Marketing CX in the background, and Healthy Minds Club as this week's sponsors. That's today's team, folks. Wow. And we've got lots of users coming on board. That's brilliant. So good morning. Good morning. Boom, there we go. So that was our sponsorship opener video. I hope you liked it with Healthy Minds Club. So oi, oi, people. And hi, gang, it's Leaders Live showtime, folks. It's just after 8:45 a.m. here in the UK. And we are live this morning. We're always delighted that everything works and we go live. And we're spreading the love, folks. Yabba, dabba, do. And we hope you enjoyed that groovy opener as well. And this week we're delighted that we're being powered by a Healthy Minds Club. One of my mates, CEO Kathy Heath, this week's sponsor. So look out for who's sponsoring us each week as well, please, folks. Oh, and please let me know if our audio is coming through okay. It sounds like it is because no one's complaining, right? So if you're new to Leaders Live, a warm welcome to you. And as you know, Leaders Live is a dynamic talk show that generates business through networking, through community, and through extraordinary conversations that inspire. So there we are. And as I mentioned in the countdown, I'm Andrew Jenkins, and I host this interactive Leaders Live show that's building an awesome community of like-minded leaders. So please don't be shy. We'd love you to introduce yourself as you're doing already. So please keep the comments flowing and interact because it's an interactive show. That's how we roll. And we've got 3 simple rules. That's safe community, mutual respect, and please no selling in the room. And our motto is I to the power of we. And an easy way that you can show some support and love for this free show, folks. All the effort that we put in to make this show, and boy, do we put a lot of effort into making this live for you guys, is to buymeacoffee.com/leaderslive. And you can buy me a coffee, and that's just fantastic. Buy me 5 and you get a free coach session. It looks a bit like this. If I can find the link, here we go. Let's just send a test to us to this morning. There it is. So it looks a bit like that. Bit of fun, and get your name up in lights as well. So. And smash those likes as well, please, folks. I would really appreciate that. Keeps us motivated to love that bell. No. And this talk show enables us to listen to some great content, but there's so much more value when you subscribe to our email list because you get leadership skills, you get teaching, you get value to equip you to lead well, and you get freebies and updates. What's not to like about that, folks? And a real simple way you can do that is just look at our Linktree link, and all the links are in there. And that will be popped into the feed. And yeah, people are talking about coffee already. So there we go. So if you put it all together, what have you got? Bibbity, bobbity, boo. There you go. I love that little phrase. So let's bring in this week's Leaders Live guest this morning, John Attridge. Hiya, John. How you doing, mate?
Yeah, good morning. All happy. Just got back from Oz and the Isle of Man. There's the 2 different parts of the world. And so
Yeah.
happy to be back here with you guys today.
Oz and the Isle of Man. I mean, those aren't really exactly quite close together, are they? But you've presumably been touring the world.
Doing a bit of sharing of love around the place.
Being sharing. So winter in Australia and hopefully some summer at least in the Isle of Man, right?
Yeah,
Brilliant.
first time being there was nice.
Ah, lovely. Okay. So, yeah, look, John is, he's already been on the show and he's ready to spill his guts to share the secrets to starting, growing, scaling through sales. We're talking a bit about sales today and ultimately exiting your business like a pro. And our theme today is how to grow sales to scale up your business, folks. So, John, give us a quick summary of where we're heading today, a little bit of summary, a background about yourself and where we're heading today. What's the direction of travel, John? Take it away for us.
Yeah, so I've had two eight-figure exits from businesses over the years, and we're back on project number three,
Oh.
9 years into that. Whoa!
Oh, yeah,
So
we can do one of those for you. There you
Wow!
go.
the linchpin of that has been sales,
Yeah,
and I've been a long disciple of a few guys like Brian Tracy, Peter Drucker, and so forth on business. And one thing that resonated me with very early in my career um, was Peter Drucker, who made the observation that 92% of entrepreneurs were product led and only 8% were sales led. Yet, of the product led entrepreneurs, 80% of them failed when only 20% of the sales led businesses failed.
interesting, isn't it? So the
So if
lesson
you
to
put those
learn
numbers
here,
together,
focus on your sales, folks, is what John's saying there, I guess.
yeah,
Brilliant.
well, if you don't have sales, you don't have revenue. And if you don't have
Yeah.
revenue, you have a hobby,
You
remember?
don't, you don't, absolutely. Yeah, we were just talking about that earlier, actually, and that challenge. And John, you've got an audience question to kick off the audience. We're going to put you on the spot now. We haven't. Did you pick that up, John, or do you want me to say it? The audience
If
question.
you can, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no worries. Okay. So the audience question today to get you kick-started is what challenges have you faced as the audience trying to scale up your sales? So that will go in the feed shortly. What challenges have you faced when trying to scale up your sales? And there's a little delay in the feed. So this is where, your interactions will be really useful for us to pick up in the chat. So we'll pick those up shortly. And while we're waiting for that, let's just bring up Mrs. Moderator. Good morning, Mrs. Moderator. How are we doing today, Sarah?
Good morning, good morning. We're doing well. Lots of people
Hmm.
all around the world. So, good morning, David in sunny Seville. I bet it's a bit hot there.
Seville. I bet you it's a bit hot there. Yeah.
Simon Brown, Southwest Surrey. That's not quite as hot. There's one or two.
Hey, someone's brought me a coffee. Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
There
Lovely.
we go. One or two new names. I'm going to apologise for the pronunciation now. Good morning to Kerry Scapatisi.
Oh, that is a name, isn't it?
Now
Scappuccini.
that's a
Yeah,
fantastic name. That sounds
isn't it?
Italian, but I could well be wrong. I'm sure they can let me know.
Good morning,
And
Kerry.
Basis, and who else? And good morning, Chris Cohen. There's another name that I've not
There we
come
go.
across.
Chris Cohen as well, and Simon Brown and Andrew Priestley as well. I can see in the feed.
Here
Is that
we
right?
go. We've even
Yeah.
got some responses to your questions.
Oh,
So,
already.
what
Yeah.
challenges have you faced, Andrew Priestley? Old school sales training. Why do people
Oh.
fear selling?
Why do
Mm,
people fear selling, John? There's an interesting question.
Yeah, and I think it's the new woke modern way of selling of the Kevin Costner method, I call it, and build it and they will come. And you put your stuff out on social media, and you don't be a pushy salesperson. You don't go selling to people, and you just wait for everything to happen by putting stuff out there, and it doesn't work a lot of the time. It's great for some of these big techs. It's great for
Mm.
Facebook or some of the real growth ones that get 1 million customers in the first 3 hours, like Threads did.
Yeah,
But
and Chat GPT as well, right?
yeah, well,
Yeah.
but it's for the average SME business, selling is still a vital part of it, and
Yeah.
you don't have to be pushy to sell. You,
Right. Let's just get that. You don't have to be pushy to sell, John.
and it's just people are gone. A lot of people are gone the other way, where they feel as though that they shouldn't sell,
Yeah.
or they'll offend somebody, and all they will be is adding to the statistics of failure.
Yeah. And if you don't ask, you don't get as well, I guess. Part of that is. There looks like there's loads of comments coming. I'll get into that. Just before we do that, just give you a quick round of applause, John. So there we go. Confetti bomb. Don't we just love the confetti bomb? There we go. Let's bring in Mrs. Moderator. There is tons going on in the chat. Just pick us up. Sarah,
there
where we
is
go, Mrs.
indeed.
Moderator?
Yeah, Ildi, fear of losing control by having to
Oh,
hire people if I start scaling up.
yeah. So that kind of, oh, well, can I afford to hire people? And then will I run out of money, John? What do you think?
Yeah, well, you get the startup type business, which is
Mm,
building to about 100 grand of revenue, and then you
yeah.
get to a point where you need to replicate yourself. And in order to do that, to grow your business and then scale it, you need to have other people other than you, unless you've got some magic formula that can replicate you many, many, many times on a SaaS type model. So hiring and recruitment is one of the toughest issues facing everybody in sales today, for a variety of different reasons that I don't need to go into. But it's not just selling, hospitality, trades. At the moment, there's just such a dire shortage of people willing to work.
Yeah.
So,
Interesting.
you've got to be a bit ahead of the crew in selling yourself. And a lot of that goes back, Andrew, and Sarah, to knowing your numbers and having some form of record keeping service. So recruitment, and I speak about it in my book. You need to recruit, especially when you don't need to, because most people recruit when an opportunity is forced upon them.
Yeah.
Now, and it's not, it's by a resignation or someone leaving or something happening where you need people, and all of a sudden you go, oh, what do I
Yeah.
do?
And you can't get the right people.
And you're starting from ground zero.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're recruiting on a consistent basis, fishing in a number of different pools to find people, and recording the outcome, I call it a monthly recruitment success sheet.
Mm,
And I can share that with you, Andrew, if anybody's interested in it. And it's a
interesting.
simple sheet that outlines the name of the person that you're talking to, where you found them, where you're up to in the process. Is it a first, second, third interview, whatever process they're using? A follow-up strategy that you look at every month, and then you become conditioned upon using it, and therefore you're also accountable to it. Many people that I talk to over time, and I say, how many, you're struggling to recruit at the moment. How many people did you speak to last month? Oh, I spoke to loads. Okay, show me a sheet that says, who are the individual names on that list. And
Yeah.
loads comes down to 3 people. Oh, where did you find these people? Oh, I sent a
Yeah.
message on LinkedIn and these 3 people replied. Oh, what other fishing pools did you use? Nothing. What other bait
Uh,
did you use? Nothing. So how can you expect success if you're not doing it on a consistent
yeah.
and regular basis?
So the numbers are knowing your numbers, and if Kieran O'Donnell is on, I'm sure he is. I think that will resonate with him because that's what his company's called, Know Your Numbers. So, yeah. And Ildi just comments here, says, "I'm unreplaceable, John." So there you go.
Well, if that's the case, you're in big trouble, Ildy. Sorry, but
There
uh,
you go, Ildi.
you can't replicate yourself unless you can form some sort of SaaS model. Then you cannot scale.
Then you cannot scale. Okay, right. So there you go. There's the answer to that one, Ildi. I hope that's answered your question. Okay. Um, anything else, Sarah? What else is going on? So much going on in the feed.
So much going on. I'm
I was saying, yeah.
just yeah. Hang on 1 second while I just find the. Our biggest challenge is our uniqueness. Comes back to
Oh.
what you just said to Ildi, doesn't it? If you can't replicate yourself, you're in trouble.
Mm. Who said that?
Uh,
Oh, yes, I see that.
that
Chris.
was Chris Cohen.
Yeah, Chris Cohen. Morning,
Simon
Chris.
Brown. It's difficult to sell yourself unless you're super confident.
Oh, it's
Do you think?
difficult to sell yourself unless you're super calm. What say you there, John?
Yeah, well, that comes back to the Peter Drucker observation that
Mm,
92% of entrepreneurs are product led. So they're great and knowledgeable and skillful at and passionate about the product that they're delivering, but they're hopeless at the other aspects of running the business, the selling, the finance,
mm,
the accounting, the marketing. So you need to then outsource or get a partner, or either an equity partner or an employed partner that's great and passionate about all the stuff that you don't like and are not good at.
yeah,
I see so many entrepreneurs that are focusing on doing their books and they hate it, and they spend a day a week doing their books. And I think, if you outsource that to someone who loves bookkeeping, they'd do it in an hour,
yeah. There you
and
go, Sarah.
and you could have another day back to do what you're great at, which
Yeah,
would be to get your product out into the marketplace.
yeah, or hire someone to sell or whatever. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Anything else? There's some few questions in the feed as well. I think I saw.
Yeah. So Kieran is listening.
Hello,
He said,
Kieran.
"Sales solves nearly all problems," said someone more intelligent than him.
solves every single problem with running a
Every
business.
single problem.
There
I
we
think you're
go.
probably right. Yeah, I like that. I love that. I'm just trying to find that. I can't find it at
Oh,
the
don't
moment.
worry
So
about
don't
finding it.
worry.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Andy Gray,
Oh, there
love
it is.
selling
Yeah.
in person, but find the concept of cold calling really hard. Any
Mm,
thoughts and suggestions?
Yeah, I think there's probably 9 methods of selling, or 9 methods of prospecting, I should say.
mm,
And I call them fishing ponds or pools. And cold calling is one, but there are 9 definite pools out there. And my advice to anybody is fish in the 3 or 4 that you feel most comfortable in that deliver the results. Um, but you need, like any diet, if you only eat potatoes, then you're going to miss out on other stuff. So you need to fish in 3 or 4
Three or four.
pools
Get a
to get the
balance.
nutrients and the
Yeah.
different types of customers that make up a great business for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Okay.
quickly, there's some pools. There's what I call the FFF pool, the friends, family, and fools. So
Oh,
there's all
yeah.
the people that are close to you. So why not fish in that pond?
The
Um,
FFF pool. There you go. Friends, family, and what?
Pools.
Fools.
Fools.
Um, you've got the social media pool. Now that could be
Okay.
LinkedIn or Facebook or Instagram or any of those type. So you can be consistent there. You've got um, the referral pool from our existing
Cool.
customers. So how many of us have a proper recorded, recognized follow-up to talk to our existing customers every single month and get some referrals and introductions and from that particular pool? It's an often neglected one.
Yeah. So
That
just
your
ask,
existing
right, John? Just ask.
people.
Just ask.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You can put a sandwich board on your back down the town square and just say, "Buy my stuff," and that's cold calling. But that may not work. It will on ratios. 3 out of 100. It's like letterbox mail.
Yeah.
If you do it in the right way, 3 in 100 will respond. So you just got to do enough of it.
Yeah, so the
Um,
numbers will work there. Again, knowing your numbers, right? So yeah, that's the numbers game. That's another
yep.
way of selling as well, I suppose. Just do it by the numbers, right?
Developing centers of influence. So,
Yeah.
your
Ooh.
accountant or people that refer a lot of product that could be used. So there'll be 5 or 6, maybe 10 people in your life that know what you do, that like what you do, that have customers that they talk to that may benefit from what you do. So
Yeah.
why aren't you developing that? So there's about
Yeah.
9 of those different ones that I talk about, and
Mm.
my advice is to develop all of them, and then work at least 3 or 4 of them.
Work at least 3 or 4 of them. I like that circles of influence. We've all got people that are close to us in business who you can just go and phone up and kind of go, look, I'm just looking at next month and would like to fill a gap. Is anyone that that can help? Because when you're front of mind, it's like a moving parade, isn't it? If you're not part of the parade, you don't see the action, right?
Yep. And
Yeah.
and most of these, Andrew, don't cost you a lot, if anything. The only one that ever
Yeah.
costs you a lot of money is PPC or advertising. And
Mm.
that's where you throw your stuff out there. It's easy to do, and you cross your fingers and hope it works. Um,
That's called
but the,
marketing, isn't it, John?
the other thing is that proactive stuff that you can do,
Yeah.
take total control over the outcome, that don't cost you a lot of money.
Proactive. So yeah, just being proactive there. That's a good reminder for all of us actually. And it doesn't cost a lot of money, folks, as John's just said. John, let's just give you a quick break. What else is going on? Let's pick up a few more of the questions here. There's so much going on here.
Right. So, Debasis, no
Mm,
one will buy unless we can add value. Plus, sales comes through influencer marketing. People nowadays prefer to buy from others rather than from products. What do you think?
oh, I'm just trying
Yeah,
to find that.
that's the modern way of it. I don't necessarily agree. As I said, I call that the Kevin Costner method of selling. Build it and
Build
they
it, they
will
will
come.
come. Yeah.
And go like that, and then say, "Oh, it didn't work, so it wasn't my fault."
Oh,
Um,
the hope strategy, you mean?
hopium, we
Hopium.
call it. Yeah, it's like opium, but you don't get the buzz. Uh,
You don't get the addiction either, do you? Well, maybe you
that's it.
do.
Yeah,
Maybe
so
you
I
do.
think it's a myth to most companies that this build it and they will come strategy where you put it out to influencers and then the phone starts ringing. That if it happens to people, I'd like to talk to some of those people. But my experience, and I've got a business community, Andrew, there's about 480,000 businesses of all shapes and sizes in
Wow.
over 1,000 verticals throughout 31 countries. And the feedback that I get certainly is that, yes, there's a modern way of selling. People don't like being sold to, but unless you get out and start selling, then you just can't have hopium and think it will work.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, John. Okay. So don't rely on hopium. It just doesn't work. And Simon Brown's got a couple of questions here. I don't know if we can fish these earlier in the feed. There's a couple right next to each other, I think, somewhere.
Hang on just a minute. Let me have a quick look. Here we go. Should we focus on sales or just share what we can offer? Is it about finding the need first?
Oh, like that.
Well, whatever your business will solve an issue that it, and the two buying motivators aren't there. There's pleasure and pain, and people will either run towards pleasure or away from pain.
Yeah.
So whatever it is that you have in the world, they will solve one of those two buying motivations. So if you're running a luxury holiday resort in Jamaica, then that's on the pleasure side of things.
Yeah.
If you're running a doctor's surgery that cures cancer, that's on the pain side of things. And so you've got to focus on people's pain or people's pleasure in order for them to run towards you.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah. So your marketing messages flip flop between pain and pleasure,
Your
right?
marketing messages has got to either address the pleasure that people receive by coming towards you or the pain that they'll experience if they don't run away from you.
Brilliant. Okay. That's a good reminder for us, folks. Fantastic. Mrs. Moderator.
Yeah, Andy Gray just reminds, he just adds, as an artist, he would say, do your work in public.
Yeah.
He's had a lot of work because people have referred him through social media because they know what he does. And drawing in public in conferences, people will then go and look over his shoulder, see what he does. Very much so.
Yeah.
Well, that goes to the presentation of what you do. So there's,
yeah.
you've got prospecting, and then you've got appointment setting, and then you've got presenting, and they're three different.
Okay. So
fields.
prospect. What did say that again, John?
There's appointing, and then there's prospecting. There's appointment setting, and then there's presenting. So there are three different segments, and people often blur them or don't, or leave one of them out. And if you do, it's like baking without a recipe. You throw the ingredients in and expect the cake to rise. It just doesn't happen.
Doesn't happen. Yeah. And just go. Sorry.
54% of people are visual. So Andy's right.
Yeah.
54% people learn visually.
Yeah.
And therefore, that if you've got something that you can show, a case study, some kind of video that you have on your presentation material, that will appeal to more than half the audience that you will hope to prospect.
Yeah, and Andy's a great case, actually. I'm just bringing up Andy. He's a mate of mine. He's been on the show doing his drawing. He's on next week as well. We'll come on to that later. He is a very persuasive person when you speak to him because he's so engaging, John. And so presentations is a natural thing for Andy because when he kind of draws you into the way he is, he's just brilliant. He's just a natural drawer, and he can talk while he draws, which is pretty unusual for blokes, to do two things at once. And he can do that really well. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well done, John. Fantastic.
And it comes back to the point where if you're wanting to replicate yourself and you can do a video, well, then that helps to replicate yourself, doesn't it? Or a cartoon or a drawing or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, Andy's done some brilliant stuff. So, yeah, and that sells itself really because of his enthusiasm. And I think that's a good lesson for all of us is be enthusiastic about, about what we do as well. And, because that's captivating, right?
Well, if you're not enthusiastic yourself, how are you expecting anybody else to get excited about what it is that you do?
Totally. Absolutely. Yeah, quite right. Sarah, is there anything else you want to pick up for now or should we move on?
Right. So LinkedIn user, I'm not sure. I don't think this is Kieran, but he's just not telling me who it is. Good, you're covering all the basics, the fundamentals, many forget.
Yeah. Sometimes it comes down to some simple stuff, doesn't it? Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it's the old Gary Player thing, isn't it? The more you practice, the luckier you get. So
funny that, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah. Because Gary used to say,
well, practice sales very often, you'll become unlucky, I can tell you.
Very quickly. Yeah. And that's
that was actually Guy.
Hello, Guy.
It's coming. That's actually come up on my LinkedIn. It's coming. It doesn't tell me on the feed. So bit of guesswork, and I got it wrong.
Brilliant. Well done. Brilliant. Okay. So, John, just thinking about where are we? Let's just bring the side by side thing up. There we go. So, we've kind of covered a lot of bases and some fundamentals right now, and responding to what the audience were interested in right there. Tell us a bit more about what sorts of common blunders, make up the sort of, when we're starting up business. Ildu was talking about starting up and things like that. What are the common blunders that people make, and how do we avoid and mitigate some common blunders, John?
Yeah, so I write about them in my book, and
Yeah.
just the basic ones that
This is a great book. This is the book here, by the way, folks. I've got it. We'll come to a link in it in a moment. So there it is.
um, you know, they start a business because they are great and passionate about what it is, but they don't do any market research to see if that's a widely held belief. So, as Duncan Bannatyne would say, are you solving a problem that doesn't exist?
Yeah.
So, a bit of markets research. I'd always, when I was starting a business, I'd always get 100 pieces of market research. So that's speaking to 100 people. Some can be friends, some can be family, some can be strangers, but do a little bit of research. Develop four or five questions around what it is that you're wanting to do, and go and ask the marketplace, is that something that people would pay to solve? If so, how much would they pay? And then you can work a model out then. If you have, X amount of revenue per customer, how many customers do you need to acquire to break even? Because it's a race to break even. So when you very first start a business, a lot of people come from a PAYE mentality where they've been on a salary and expect the business to make a profit from day one. Hello, ring a bell. Need a wake up call. So you need a bit of capital behind you, working capital,
Right. Spot on. Yeah.
to run the business, on the basis that on my trusted advice was that, see if you could run the business for 12 months without requiring any revenue. Now, work your way backwards from that. I know that's probably a little bit conservative, but you should be expecting a period of probably 3 to 6 months at least where you're not making a profit. So how
Yeah.
can you fund yourself in that time? So a lot
Or
of people
more.
run
Yeah.
out of runway, as they say.
Run out of runway. Yeah. I love that that's a great reminder, isn't it, for people starting up, is, get some working capital behind you,
Yep.
because
And then
cash flow is king, right? And when you run
yep,
out of money, it's horrible.
you're dead in the water.
You're dead in the
Okay.
water.
But
Yeah.
you also get desperate if you're thinking of
Yeah.
running out of money. So you come over as desperate, and that
Yeah.
creates a worse problem.
Yeah, and I once spent my last money when my back was against the wall on some marketing that just didn't work, and it was one of the worst things I ever did, John. But it was a
Yep.
good learning, because I'll never do that again. When your back's up against the wall, don't spend unnecessarily. You have to really think wise, because you start to panic and things go badly wrong then. But having money behind you, is powerful. Some savings. When we started up our business, we popped in a lump sum straight into the business, and that lasted us for quite a few years in our first years, and it got us over all the humps of breaking even. And we lost money in the first couple of years because it just took a while to fly.
Yep.
You know,
So running with those, and then in
mm.
my book I speak of three things. The first one is to start with the end in mind. So many businesses start, and the example I use is I started with the Queensland Trade Exchange, which was such a great name. It took me like days and weeks to think of it. In
Days and
Queensland.
weeks.
Um, and yet, as soon as I moved to New South Wales, extended, it became the dumbest name because there's a great rivalry between Queensland and New South Wales. Therefore, it was silly. So if
Yeah.
I'd have started with the end in mind and called it the World Trade Exchange,
Global.
and then only have to worry about it when I went to Mars, then starting with the end in mind, which is Stephen R. Covey's second habit of highly
It
successful
is
people.
indeed. Absolutely. Yeah,
And then
absolutely.
the second thing is following the 80-20 principle, Pareto principle by
Oh,
Richard
absolutely.
Koch, which I
Yeah.
read many, many years ago
Beautiful.
and
Great book.
stick by.
Mm.
So focusing 80% of your effort on the 20% of stuff that derives 80% of your revenue. And
Mm.
there's various ones of that. And then the third thing I speak about when a startup is to maximize everything you possibly can with your spare capacity. Most businesses that I speak to don't even measure it, haven't even got a clue what I'm talking about. So, spare capacity is the ability to take on more customers without increasing fixed overhead. That's the definition. So, whatever you can do to apply fixed spare capacity to running your business in the early days or the growth or the scale days will end up benefiting towards the exit days. So
Yeah. And that's what
it's just
BBX
something that
do,
people
right?
forget.
That's what your company does, is sell that spare capacity or help to sell that spare capacity. Is that right?
Do something with it. I don't
Yeah.
care what you do with it. Adopt our strategy. There's about 6 or 7 strategies I talk
Strategies.
about in the book,
Yeah.
but do something with it. Just don't let it become spare capacity.
Yeah, exactly. Do something with it. Don't let it just become spare capacity. And John's book link is in the feed, folks. Yeah, just while we're on that, let's just bring up this poll. This is quite interesting because you talked about data earlier on and the importance of data. Here's a little bit of data. So, what's the biggest challenge to new sales at scale? And this is one
And that
that
was
you
an
and I put
interesting
together.
poll.
Mm,
People didn't think through the process. An example I did one day a few
mm.
years ago is that we had this great brainwave that we would collaborate with this other business community, and we brought on 1,081 clients in one deal, and that caused such chaos for our onboarding team. It took us like 4 months to sort it all out. But only 13% of people experience that, mainly because they're in a one-to-one sale position in an early stage business. And it vindicated what I was talking about, Andrew, with lead generation. People just simply don't know where to look.
Yeah,
You're in a room with a blindfold on. Where do I find new customers? And that's what I'm talking about. Develop the 9 ponds of fishing that for your business, and there will be 9 ponds that you can use in your business to find different types of clients. That's where they'll be swimming around, different
that's what I'll be
prospects.
swimming. Is that in your book, John? The 9
There is parts of that,
parts
yes.
of that. Okay. So that lead generation is really important. People don't know where to start there, obviously with the 53% there. And that makes
Yep.
sense, doesn't it? But
And
actually,
what they do is they post on LinkedIn or buy some PPC or put an ad in the paper and cross their fingers.
yeah.
And that's not a great strategy
God, how many
because
of
they
us
just don't
recognize
know where
that?
to look for the others.
Yeah, how many of us recognize that here? And I'm guilty of that. Is just use LinkedIn, and it's a free way of advertising, and business will come, right? Wrong. It's only just one pull. Yeah,
Yep.
I also like the way you said, look, what's the problem that you need to solve? I remember my board team around Leaders Live, Kathy Heath, one of the people on my board team, asked me that question. Well, Andrew, what's the problem that Leaders Live is trying to solve? And that was a really good question to ask and to answer, actually, John, and to really get to the nub of that. So that's an important question
And there
as
might
well.
be 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 problems.
Yeah, yeah,
So, it might not just be one.
mm,
But
yeah,
you
and
need
then
to then focus your marketing on the pain that causes,
yeah.
or the pleasure on the other side of it. Therefore, your marketing has to attack those pain points. It has to pick the scab, make it bleed, um,
Punch the bruise, as they say. Yes, indeed.
and to get people that have got the problem to respond to you.
Yeah, and just looking at those 2 top ones there, quality data you talked about earlier, lead generation, the ponds that you fish in, just having a strategy around developing some quality data so you know what you're looking at here, not just
Yep.
thinking, oh yeah, we've got loads of leads. Well, actually, how many is loads of leads? And when you really look at it, it might not be. And I've
Yep.
heard that so many times from people. Yeah, we're doing well with our lead generation, but actually, when you look at the numbers, you may not be doing as well as you think you are. And the
Well,
whole
well,
thing,
then that also leads to having a decent CRM system. So that's a customer
yeah,
contact management system. We use Zoho, but
Zoho, yeah,
there's plenty around that you can use.
yeah,
Uh,
Zoho, yeah, I've used
where
Zoho
you
in the
record
past.
every single
Mm,
interaction that you have from a prospect out of the pool.
mm,
Everybody is recorded in the system so that you can then market to them. And because not everyone's ready to have the problem that you've solved today.
yeah,
And so it might be next month that they get it, or it might be next year that they get the disease or illness, and that you have the solution for. Um, but if you keep them in a contact system and then keep in contact with them at the time they're ready, then they'll come back to you because it's time now that you've developed know, like, and trust. It's time to do business. So
yeah.
that's the thing, because the fortune is in the follow up. Paul Smolinski, who I was with in the Isle of Man last week, reminded me again. It's because many people, they make a contact with someone and then you never talk to them ever again. And they didn't have the issue when you spoke to them, and 20 years later or whatever. Now I'm exaggerating, but whenever it is, if they have the problem, they know who to be able to come to straight away.
Yeah, and it's just being in front of mind again and using your pool of contacts, that circle of influence you talked about earlier, and just remembering just to be in touch with them. When you're on a holiday in the Isle of Man, go and look up a couple of people that you know there. and pick up with them, because that doesn't have to be a business conversation, right? It can just be, hi, how you doing? I'm in your area. Shall we have a coffee?
And the test litmus test for this is: do you ever wake up of a morning thinking, who can I make a presentation to today? Right,
Nice.
and if that ever exists, you need to get some revenue, and you don't know who to call today, then you've got the problem of not having a CRM or a follow-up system of some kind.
Ah, I see. So when you're racking your brains, as to who should I contact, there's a ding dong for many of us, perhaps, including myself, actually, because I quite often think that. All right, who do I need to contact? That's interesting. That's a good reason to get a CRM, so you don't have that problem. That just goes away, right? Yeah, I like that. Let's just bring Sarah in just for a moment. Mrs. Moderator, anything you want to pick up?
Chris Cohen from Feasted says they find a mix of PR and strong social media works really well, but the strongest form of marketing is customer recommendations. They
Yeah.
get really good reviews, and so they've got people visiting that wouldn't even normally think about them.
Yeah, we get ridiculous strong views. Yeah, like that. Like that.
And that's fine. And what I'm saying to Chris then in that case is that I'd be looking for the other 2 or 3 ponds other than that top up your fishing bait bucket.
Yeah,
Because
fishing bait bucket. Yeah, get many rods out.
if unless you're selling at a rate that you can't handle the new customer inquiry, which is not too many people, then you need to adopt another couple of pools other than what works well, or in addition to, I should say.
Yeah, useful. Yeah, and someone's just put in here, Sarah, about the no like and trust thing. Is that Guy, is it?
Yes, it's a great reminder. I think that's Guy.
Yeah.
Ricky Harris.
We talked about that on the show, didn't we? A few weeks ago, we did no like and trust.
Yes. Yeah. So, no, that was Kieran. No
Kieran.
like and trust.
No like and trust. Yeah. Well, Kieran was on the show doing that with us. So, yeah.
Well, that's
Ricky
another one
Harris,
where networking events and networking companies and associations play an important part as a pool.
Yeah.
So, if you
Do an
belong to 2 or
event.
3 networking groups, a lot of them online nowadays, some in situ, and you attend them on a consistent basis, that's another pool of finding new customers, isn't it? And there's plenty of great groups running around.
Yeah, particularly online now. And that's a really good reminder for us, actually, be consistent in your networking groups, because that really works. That's probably the reason why we do Leaders Live, to help people network as well. Yeah, Sarah, you're going to say?
Yeah, Ricky Harris. Where's she gone? It was 99% perspiration and 1% inspiration.
Yeah, do the hard work.
Got to do the hard
Was
work.
it that Newton kept dropping apples until it worked out that relativity was as a consequence of dropping apples? Until he dropped 1,000, it didn't dawn on him.
It didn't dawn on him. Yeah, indeed. As we said earlier, there is no easy road, no right way. There is just your way. Listen, learn, be bold, and be true to yourself. Success takes time, and it's most certainly never easy. That's Andy Lennox, founder of Restaurant
Andy
Vista.
Lennox, great guy, personal friend of mine here in Bournemouth, runs a great set of restaurants. And he's been thriving in times that have been absolutely adverse to hospitality.
Really? And and how's he overcome the staff problem, or does he still suffer a bit with that as well, I wonder?
I'm sure he still suffers with it, but there's a number of that could be a whole new session.
Yeah. We probably need to interview him, actually. That sounds good. So I got that from your book, John. So this book of John's, I'll just quickly point to it. Where is it? Is it this one here? Is it this one? Yeah. Business Blunders and Bloody Great Ideas. It's a phenomenal book. It's a speed read, and there's lots of great little Johnisms in there and some quotes, and it's just wonderful. And these little tidbits, John, are just so handy, as well as all the business stories in here as well. So the link's in the feed, but there's what the book looks like, and it's I was reading it last night and during the week. Brilliant book. So thanks, John, for that. Look, if you've got any more questions, folks, just pop them into the feed for us as we're talking. Because one of the ones I want to pick up now with you, John, let me just bring up the guests in. Here we go. Look, lots of businesses you mentioned earlier when Ildi was talking, you said, well, you need to get to your first 100K. And that kind of gives you the understanding of what your business is about. You can turn the handle on it, but then growing from 100K onwards and get to that 200K mark, And it starts to get hard then at that kind of growth stage, that 200K mark, 100K, 200K starts to get tricky. What's going on there, John? Tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, you're moving like whatever it is, a tadpole into a frog.
Okay.
And so
Ah.
so you need to be able to make sure that, you've been the business up until this point, and therefore,
Mm.
you've had control over everything. And for OCD people, it's especially hard because, if they need to start recruitment, which is a skill in itself. So, to scale a business, you've either got to add staff or a SaaS model, which in fintech terms, which people pay a subscription to, where you don't have to have as many staff, but you've got to have the right idea. So if you're a chiropractor, then you're not going to be able to do that. Uh, if you're a chiropractor, you're going to have to recruit other chiropractors unless you've come up with a great way of teaching uh, people on how to be self-diagnosing or what have you. So the skill then becomes in the recruitment, and people won't be like you. There's a great mate of mine called Andy Edwards, and Andy is a keynote speaker, and his topics are, why can't people be more like me? And so, there are 16 different personality traits of people in the world, and there's no right, and there's no wrong, and so if you need to recruit people that aren't clones to you, otherwise, you don't get the variety and growth in any business. So the other thing that people try and do is recruit people that are less, uh, not intelligent, but less skilled than they are. And
Why do
I
they do
always look
that?
for someone that can take my job one day, because
Absolutely. Yeah, by
that,
talented
that
people.
way I know I'm going to get growth rather than people I can control. So
Yeah,
leadership and management
two
is
different
such a
things.
big topic. That's why people struggle to scale.
Okay, so it's trust and growth and learning to trust individuals that are different from you and,
Yep.
embracing that. And that's hard. Chris Cohn asked a question about what are the pulls. We'll come on to that in a moment for you. We'll do a recap for you, Chris, on that.
So there's,
Uh,
there's just a couple of things there with scaling. You've
mm,
either got to get someone on board that's the complementary to you,
yeah,
which is one of the big things. So you'll be great at, I don't know, podcasting,
yeah,
but are you good at marketing?
yeah,
So the answer is that only you will know. So
yeah.
if you're not good at it and you don't like it, you
Get someone to
outsource
do it.
initially.
Yeah.
Or if it's key to your business, bring that person on, and
Mm,
ideally with sweat equity. In other words, they have a stake in the growth of the business. Um,
yeah.
that way, you're recruiting like minded people that providing some skill sets that you don't have. And that's one of the real keys to scaling.
One of the real right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. And that's really quite painful as well, John, because, at that point, you're worried about the future and will it pay for itself? And as you said, you've got to make that choice and do it and feel the pain and get through it. Right, John?
Yep. So,
Yeah.
well, and it's like when you start a business, you
Mm,
start with no income.
yeah.
You get some income and you start to get comfortable and you think, oh, now I want to grow. So that costs more money. Now I've got to invest more money, which means that I might have to take less.
Yeah.
So it
Absolutely. That's
becomes
my point.
one of these curves that keeps
Yeah.
going along. And
Yeah.
you've got to experience that pain barrier in order to take the next step. And
And to
then
grow from the frog from the tadpole to the frog. I love that expression.
and then you get to a point where we're heading towards 1 million in turnover. And then you've got to ask yourself, are you the right person to take the business forward? And that's
Indeed.
painful.
Absolutely, because you've grown it to that point. Yeah, I get that. And a question I want to ask about this sort of 200K mark. When is the right time, John, to get investors in? Because that, you want to grow fast, and you think that, well, maybe the magic solution is let's just get some, venture capital or some investors involved. What say you to that, John?
I think that there's a few other options
Mm,
before. I call them vulture capitalists, because
indeed.
they'll only want to invest in your business if they can take a disproportionate amount of equity. Uh,
Yeah, having worked with venture capital for a long time, I know exactly what you mean, John. Yeah.
and unless you're, reinventing Facebook or something,
Yeah.
venture capitalism, they're not going to be interested in you unless it's, 500,000 to 5 million. It's easier to raise 5 million than it is 500,000.
Isn't that
So
interesting? Yeah.
unless it's a big scalable business, then venture capital is probably not the answer.
No.
Um, Crowdfunding can be an answer, and
Mm,
that doesn't necessarily have to involve giving up equity. And that could be a whole new subject on. There's 4 methods of crowdfunding that can be put out there, only one requires giving up of equity. The other is investing, as I said, getting a partner in that's nervous about startups, but can see that it's turned over 100, 200 grand, so someone's buying it, so it
yeah,
must be useful in some way, and getting someone in on a sweat equity basis. So
yeah.
they've either become part of it and give up a certain amount of salary to take a certain agreed amount of equity, or they put an investment in and take over the role that you're not great at and don't like doing.
Yeah, and the risk is to grow it, and and that's the roller coaster ride, but also the fun. It's that balance between fun and the whole
Yep.
roller coaster piece. And getting someone convinced to do that is your best bet. I'm hearing you say. Let's give you a quick break from Mrs. Moderator. What's going on?
Quite a bit of chat about customer experience
Mm,
metrics, so data. NTS, the Net Trust Score, which is full engagement and a positive experience.
okay.
Um, Eva Murphy mentions customer effort measure. So
Oh yes.
lots of different measures to think about. Let's have a look.
Yeah. Was there a
A lot of
question
things we can
around
get
that?
involved in once we've got customers, but I think the focus of today was getting customers in the first place. Yes, and that's a whole
Absolutely.
new sector, looking after them once you got them. But too many people fail to focus on the acquisition before they get too tied up in all the other stuff that has to happen, but only when you've got customers.
Say
Yeah.
that again, John, so we can really get that.
Well,
Since
you focus in all the stuff like we've just spoken about,
mm,
customer satisfaction and all the stuff, and we can know all about that. But unless you have a customer in the first place, then you don't have to worry about the follow up stuff. I'm not saying it's not important, but there's a time for that. And what we're talking about today is the acquisition of customers in the first place, because
yeah,
that's the most costly exercise that the business is going to undertake is new customer acquisition cost. And a lot of businesses don't measure how much it costs to acquire a new customer. They
okay.
have never even done the calculation.
Yeah. So one of those
All right.
things from transitioning from the tadpole to the frog, if you like, that 200K marker, is to
Yep.
really understand that, John.
And bringing in the customer strategy and the engagement and the trust and the follow up and all that sort of stuff
Yeah.
that happens down here, and it is important. I'm not saying it is, but
Yeah.
today's focus was on acquisition.
Acquisition of customers first. Yes. Simon Brown's
Definitely.
just
Yeah.
echoed what you've just said there. Um, Sarah, is there something from Chris Cohen around what he's telling his team and stuff?
Yes. He said he told his team yesterday that
Oh,
he's
yeah,
CEO
that's it.
for the next 5 years.
There we go.
One of his team asked what that meant, and he responded with, "It makes me more accountable. If I'm not doing it right, I'm putting my role on the chopping block. I'm putting myself in that position where I have to grow the business or at least provide the pathway."
Yeah, that's a brave step, right, John? What
Well,
Chris
that's
is saying
landing
there.
down putting the end in mind.
Yeah.
It's getting part of the journey and bringing it back to the current. So I would fully concur with that.
Yeah, and I think Chris talks about seeing people grow and things like that, and how he really enjoys that as well. And enjoying being part of a team, John, and watching people grow and flourish is part of the joy of it, as well as the roller coaster. When good people leave and things like that.
Good people leave, they start a business, and they end up getting greater turnover than you have. That's the biggest enjoyment ever.
Yeah, and then they end up buying your business.
Well, it
Happens.
hasn't happened yet, but you never know.
You
You're
never
creating
know.
the opportunity, aren't you?
Indeed, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. Brilliant. Okay. And in your book you mention, we should spend around what, 7 or 11% of our turnover, is that on marketing or sales effort? How do we afford
It,
to do that, John?
yeah, exactly. So 7-11%, and the statistics out again. Peter Drucker,
Yeah.
who I'm a disciple of, talks about these numbers. And so
Mm,
if you've got £100,000 turnover business, 7 to 11,000 a year should be spent on sponsorship, promotion, PR, advertising, marketing, and all web-based strategies. So again, many pools,
many
not just
pulls.
one or two.
Yeah.
But it should be spent on getting your name and brand and the pain that you solve or the pleasure that you create out into the marketplace. and many businesses don't do that. And so I'm not saying do it all on PPC. I'm not saying do it all on PR. I'm saying do a mix, but then
But do something.
do something. So, and there's a way of creating that without having to find a pound sterling budget to do so. And that's one of the things that I focus on in my core business, which is turning spare capacity into that budget.
Yeah, by selling that spare capacity, right, and in credits and stuff. So actually,
And then use that capacity value to buy those goods and services that require the marketing spend in your business. And you can do just about everything except
smart
for Google AdWords or PPC with massive companies.
PPC, pay per click, in other words, John.
Pay per click, yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
gotcha.
not saying that's a great strategy. It works for some businesses, but not
Yeah,
all.
product
Again, it's
businesses.
another pool
Yeah.
that you can subscribe to, and but I'd be measuring it like a hawk and watching the budget.
Measure like a hawk. I like that.
Because
Yeah.
whenever I spend money with big companies like that, they tend to be happy at accepting my money, but not so great at delivering a result. And you've got to be able to monitor and measure that result and make sure it's cost effective for whatever it is that you do.
Yeah, and yeah, totally agree.
There's plenty
Yeah,
of strategies. Like I'm on this call today with you, Andrew, and
yeah,
yes, I'm giving up an hour's time, but I am getting my message out into the marketplace
exactly.
to a whole brand new lot of people that perhaps wouldn't otherwise come across me. So,
Yeah,
I challenge people, what strategies are you involving to do similar types of things to get your branding out into the marketplace? But you've got to do 7 to 11% of your turnover as a minimum budget to be effective.
yeah, and that's why we do this show as well, to help people to network, and we get a cut from that. So I'll talk to you about that later, John. Okay, so there we go. Really interesting, actually. And look, just for Chris and others that may have joined in late, we talked about sales pulls, of fishing pulls. Just remind us, John, just a few examples of what those might be, so Chris has got that locked into his mind.
Yeah, so too many businesses only focus on one area of trying to attract new customers.
Yeah, yeah.
So they either have a LinkedIn strategy or a pay-per-click strategy or an advertising strategy. And what I'm saying, you need about 9 different strategies that are clearly defined, and you need to work on at least 3, 4, 5 of those consistently to have a balanced diet of new prospects.
Some of that social media, some of it's friends, families, and fools, which I love that quote. Friends, families, fools, FFF. And
Centers of influence,
yeah,
referral
circles of influence.
strategies,
Yeah,
ambassador marketing into your current customer base. There's a number of different pools that we use, and there'll be 9 for every single business, 9 different areas that they can attract new prospects. So, the whole thing starts in a bucket, doesn't it? So you have a
yeah.
whole from all the fishing pools, you end up with a
A single
bulk
bucket.
amount of new prospects. That'll
Yeah,
filter down because someone don't need you right now. Some people think about it. Some people can't afford. Some people
yeah.
don't like you.
Down the
Some people
line.
don't trust you. Whatever, and it gets down and down and down until it filters down into the point where you make sales.
Yeah,
And that the top of the bucket, the top of the funnel needs constant replenishment. And so it becomes a filtering process. And then those that drip out the bottom without being customers get put into the top until they give up and say, stop talking to me.
yeah. I'll buy it. I'll buy it. Go away.
I'll pay you to go away. So they go off into the cast off net into the ocean.
And brilliant. Yeah, I like it. Fantastic. Okay, Mrs. Moderator just finishes up on the on what's happening in the feed.
Um, general talks about customer satisfaction, but we
Yeah.
are talking about sales. So I think looking at the time, it's time that we
Yeah, we marched on. Yeah, thank you for all the comments that are going in. The net promoter score from, is it Ewa and Chris, and
Eva.
there's quite
Eva.
Eva, right? There's quite a
Well, I'm not saying
conversation
customer
going on.
satisfaction isn't important, Andrew, either, but that is a completely different, and you could do another hour on that easily.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not
Good
what we're
point.
focusing on just now.
So yeah, there we go. So John's. We're coming to an end now, and we're marching towards our end piece. And just tell us a little bit about your business here, John. So this is BBX. Just give us a quick flavour of how that works.
Yeah, it's a little bit like LinkedIn meeting getting married to PayPal.
Love it.
So if you can, with a couple of differences, that you have to own the business in order to have a profile on the system, and we have a community of businesses that scratch one another's back.
Like that.
So you buy from people in the community, and you spend the new money with peat that you earn from the community back into the community. So we call it circular money, boomerang money, banana money, whatever you like to call it. It's a second pot of revenue that harvests and monetizes as spare capacity to use to, among other things, find the budget for that 7-11% to market your business. That's one of the
Yeah.
big strategies in it.
And instead of spending money, you pay for services in credits, right? And then,
Yeah,
yeah, I like that. And you buy and sell those credits, which means you're selling and buying your time or your product or your service. But actually, that's your spare capacity, so it's a no-brainer. I really like this business idea, John. And your CTA here, we've talked about your business book here. So that's is there something else I wanted to bring up for you? I think that was probably. Is there anything else that you want to promote, John?
Oh, other than the fact that, people
You-
that want to come and join some of our communities, we've got a
Mm,
great lot of networking groups. We've got a great lot of events that we run. More than happy to invite people along to come and have a look, because business can be a lonely place at
can't
times.
it
You're
just?
there by yourself, and
Yeah.
you think, oh God, am I the only person that has this problem? And I can assure you that you're not.
You're not. Yeah.
Um, so, yeah, the three aspects of BBX community. Yes, we get more sales. Yes, we offset cost. But one of the big legs of the stool is the community. We
Yeah.
did this show that up here, the Global Business Show during COVID. We were the first 24/7 business show, and we went around the world, and we had insights and inspiration. I had a whole lot of guest speakers, and we did networking events and an exhibition afterwards, and we had like 30 odd thousand on that. Um, and so, but it was a
Wow.
great feedback was that it was great to be part of a community, even during lockdown. But
Totally.
even if
And
you're not locked down anymore, it's still lonely.
I'm with you all the way. That's why we built Leaders Live, to be that part of a community. Absolutely right. Yes, spot on. And John, like myself, actually, you're a great connector, John. And yeah, so follow up with John. And in terms of our business offering for myself, yeah, I do a lot of unlocking potential of high performing teams. I'm also I've got this lovely approach for facilitating team away days called the Big Think, and it's a strategic action planning process and thinking through extraordinary, teamwork and helping teams just to engage over 1 or 2 days in terms of workshops and getting the best out of your business, and to have that facilitated really helps you to get from that tadpole, as John called it, into the frog. So, and using someone to help you to do that is really powerful. And I have this Big Think process that I'm engaged a lot with for teams. So please talk to me about my Big Think program, 1 or 2 days of facilitation workshop for your team. And and just a quick shout out for our sponsors. Healthy Minds Club. Here is the CEO, Kathy Heath, talking about her business as our business sponsors. Here she goes.
Hi, I'm Kathy Heath, CEO and co-founder of the Healthy Minds Club. We are a multi-award-winning well-tech business offering personalised, proactive and preventative wellbeing solutions in the form of a gift card and membership. We connect our users with qualified, insured, vetted wellbeing experts, products and services to prevent issues and empower positive mental and financial wellbeing. I'm absolutely delighted to be sponsoring Leaders Live and Andrew.
Brilliant. And there we go. So, yeah, that's a little bit about Healthy Minds Club. So, yeah, and I'll come on to Goose for next week in a moment. But thanks, John, for an enlightening conversation, an extraordinary, playful conversation that we've had this morning. We've loved having you on the show again, John. Looks like we're going to have to go for a round 3 again in the autumn period.
Do I get an opportunity to go for the hat trick ball?
Yeah, you do. Oh, absolutely. Hat trick. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yes, we'll definitely do that. So, and Sarah, just a quick pitch on health on Leaders Life, please, Sarah.
Yeah, just a couple of things.
Hmm.
We've had 1 or 2 comments where people have joined late and said, what did they miss? Subscribe and you'll get a reminder email, so you won't be late.
Yeah.
You get much more information if you subscribe, but there are so many ways to listen to us afterwards, follow up on the podcasts, on the website. If you've enjoyed it, tell all your friends. Emma Rolliston, fantastic. More details on events, please. Emma, just subscribe and you'll get all the information you would ever want.
you, Emma. Yeah,
So,
brilliant.
yeah, tell all your friends and let's get the community growing.
Brilliant. And that's the same for John as well. And yeah, brilliant. So I think Becky says here, could I have further details on networking events? Well, sure, just hook up with John and take it from there. So there we are. Fantastic. And the goose for next week, let's just bring my, there we go. Goose for next week. So I haven't got a graphic for this because the graphic hasn't been prepared yet, but we've had a few changes to this. But next week, Tuesday, the 25th of July at 8:45 UK time, we'll be hanging out with a line of awesome guests, actually. We've got a couple of guests. We've got Dr. Ian Price in the room, and we'll have Reverend Andy Gray, who's listening today. And it's a breakfast show format, folks. So we're doing two people being interviewed, so the trio of us. And our theme is why we need neurodiverse brains in business. Oh, let's just have a... And how can we use these traits as superpowers or not? Are they superpowers or not? In fact, we think, folks, you're going to love it. And so our normal strapline is be there or be square, folks. So that's where we're heading next week. And we'll just wave goodbye to you with our outro closer. Thanks again, John, for being such a sport and coming on the show again. And we've loved having you. And here's our outro video that we'll just wave goodbye to you for. We're on the hour. How good is that? Cheers for now, folks. We'll wave goodbye to you from here. See you again next week, folks, for another groovy, awesome show from Leaders Live. And thanks again, John. Brilliant, brilliant. Loved having you on the show. Fantastic. Bye for now. Bye for now, folks. Cheers again. Thank you very much for joining and listening in. Thank you very much. Bye-bye now.